Hey guys, thanks for coming to Politics in Life. I hope all of you guys are having a blessed day. Please like, comment, hit that subscribe button below. Today we're reacting to a brand new Tim Walz interview that he fumbles with Jake Tapper's CNN. Nothing new, just lies, more fear-mongering and propaganda. But he does an interview with CNN Jake Tapper, and then the Democrat Party has a hands-off-me rally that went supposedly around the country yesterday that was fully paid for by your Democrat and George Soros party. They already have people shipped in from buses, planes, probably all around the country that just form and protest. Well, if you see these interviews of conservatives at these protests, these liberals that are here protesting have no idea what they are protesting even about. It's quite hilarious, but we have some clips to react to about that as well. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get it started, y'all. Hope you guys are having a great day.
We knew what happened. Many things. I'm not here, so I told you so.
Former Vice President Kamala Harris back with a little "I told you so" this week as President Trump's tariffs are setting off global shockwaves. So what does Harris's former running mate think? Well, Democratic Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota has been on a national town hall tour through red congressional districts from Iowa to Texas to Ohio, and he joins us now from Columbus. Democratic Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota. You're the governor of an agriculture-heavy state, one of the top 5 in the country, I believe. What's your reaction to what you just heard from the agriculture secretary?
Yeah, good morning, Jake. Well, I'm stunned. Your questions were spot on. It's very clear that she talked about the people she's listening to. That is not the agricultural community. It is certainly not producers. It's not folks like Cargill, CHS, General Mills, who are out in my district. Look, this is a really precarious time, and the flippant nature that we're just trying something new here is really dangerous. These markets took us years to develop, and we have to be dependable trading partners. They don't come back overnight. And everyone knows in the history of trade wars, agriculture gets hit the hardest. So I'm deeply concerned. It's our #1 export. Adding the tariffs, our 2 biggest, export markets are Mexico and Canada. They're our great.
You're right, Sharon. Wisely's done. Common sense finally has come. Yes, exactly. And let's not pretend why the tariffs aren't being put in place. These people are tariffing our products and what we're selling. Also, not closing the border or letting fentanyl come across our border and kill our young, vulnerable Americans. It's terrible, and they didn't want to listen, so Trump put tariffs on them. The whole tariff thing is not hard to get, I feel like. People just misunderstand or just look up propaganda and don't really deep dive into why he's putting tariffs on these corrupt countries that have taken advantage of the U.S. for years at this point until Trump came back. It's just to put these people in line and to show we, as the world leaders, are back.
Great friends. This is just really, really terrifying. I would encourage, and I'll call the secretary. I'd encourage her to come to Minnesota and see everything that she said is not what's happening on the ground. So look, it's a precarious time.
So let me ask you, because another group you're in touch with, the United Auto Workers Union, you have a lot of that. They have supported you for years and years and years. They were excited to have you on the Democratic ticket. President Trump argues that these tariffs are needed to bring American manufacturing back and to help American workers left behind in places like Minnesota. He has support from the UAW. The UAW called his auto tariffs, quote, a long overdue shift away from a harmful economic framework.
And let's also not pretend that Mexico didn't comply because they wouldn't shut down the border and they pretty much just let people stream across the border into our country, pedophiles, criminals, gang members. They weren't listening. He put tariffs on them or threatened tariffs on them. They folded literally, what, in a day? Same with Canada, they folded. I mean, Venezuela as well, they're taking back criminals. Like, this is working, and Trump has a long picture game, as he always talks about. Not a short-term, long picture game to where the United States can be successful and continue to be a successful economy.
That has devastated the working class. It signals a return to policies that prioritize the workers who build this country rather than the greed of ruthless corporations.
What's up, Squid Man?
I have to say, that sounds a lot like language you would use.
You're having a great night, bro.
What do you say to the UAW?
Yes. It is what I would use. And here's the thing that the Democrats have to figure out. Donald Trump's language around this, he's not wrong that we've had manufacturing gutted. He's not wrong that we saw an outshoring. People of my generation were told, there aren't going to be any manufacturing jobs, so you need to go to college and rack up student loan debt. The problem is Donald Trump's solution to this is not the solution. Now, UAW is right. Certain tariffs, if they're on to steel or if they're targeted correctly, do make a difference. That's not what we're dealing with here. So just last week, 650 tax taconite miners are laid off. Those taconite miners are mining the taconite to make the steel to build the automobiles. So I don't disagree where they're at. And I think this is the Democratic dilemma. Donald Trump talks about the things that are real in the angst of people's lives. He doesn't do a damn thing about it. In fact, he does just the opposite, and he pals around with the
just like how it comes to the border and how we had record millions upon millions of illegals, which you supported, come into our country and receive benefits off our taxpayer funds. That was your party that supported that, Tim, and Trump has already shut that shit down in the first month by 95%. So, I mean, nothing just based off that one fact right there. You can't believe anything that comes out of this jackass's mouth. And I mean, he's the one that put tampons in boys' restrooms. He's the one whose family led on the BLM riots and gave the criminals who were burning down businesses the whereabouts of where the cops were going to be. Nothing this guy says is a fact. He is a soy boy he's a soy boy.
People that caused the problem, and we don't offer them a solution, so it looks like we're not hearing them. So I disagree with Sean Fain and UAW on this issue. I don't disagree with them on that we made decisions over the last 30 to 40 years that I don't think helped America, but this is not the solution to it. Isolating ourselves is not the solution. We need to make sure that we're focusing. And again, I would just end with this, Jake. Donald Trump has not once ever cared about workers. This is why you need to support unions across the board, support the ability to have a living wage.
So you're in Ohio right now. You've been holding these town halls in red districts across the country. You're saying Democrats need to do a better job of reaching Trump voters.
This is who they're going to put in as the presidential nominee. I mean, I actually entertain that because I think Tim Walz is way over his head. He thinks he sounds smart and come across as a smart person, but he's really dumb.
I want to play something you said at an event in Texas last month.
We let them define the issue on immigration. We let them define the issue on DEI, and we let them define what woke is. We got ourselves in this mess because we weren't bold enough to stand up and say, you damn right we're proud of these policies. We're going to put them in, and we're going to execute them.
I mean, you
Good point, Squidman. I would say the left is the party of communists because communists always accuse the other side of what they are. Bro, yes. And that hands-off protest they had across country yesterday, which was funded by George Soros, I'm going to go into some videos after this interview. Yes, they're definitely the party of communists. If you don't agree with them 100 in lockstep, you are a terrorist or a Nazi or a right-wing extremist, according to them.
The issues you identified there were immigration, DEI, and woke. You think Democrats' problem was that you just didn't do a good enough job explaining the policies and not that voters simply didn't just reject what you were selling, particularly on immigration, I wonder?
No, on immigration, what we were asking for is a bipartisan policy that strengthens immigration control, that recognizes that we need a workforce here, that they should be allowed here legally.
No, the bill, and I keep pausing it. The bill was to allow, I think it was like 2 to 5 million people a month to come across illegally. They did nothing to prevent the border crossings from going down. Actually, Trump didn't even need to pass a bill and he shut it down. They're saying that Congress and Senate needed to pass a bill which would allow, like I said, 5 million illegals a month to come across legally and give them free everything. So that's just another lie from this tampon Tim.
Legally, and that when they get here, they're part of the American fabric. And that is the bipartisan bill we had. Donald Trump snatching up college grad students and sending them back or sending folks to El Salvador illegally. That's not the policy. But for us to them to say, we don't care that violent criminals come in, we most certainly do. No. What we were asking for is the resources to make sure they don't get here. And the same thing with the other policies. It's not a woke policy to provide food for children to get breakfast and lunch, and we get better outcomes from that. They defined things on their terms.
That bill also had $80 to $100 billion to go to Ukraine. What does that have to do with border crossings? Trump, again, let me repeat, Trump shut the border down without 0 bills being passed. He's saying we should have given $80 billion to Ukraine. What does that have to do with shutting our border down? Nothing this guy says you should take serious.
Terms that weren't true. And what I'm saying is, are we going to turn away from being a country of legal immigration? Are we going to turn away from a country that thinks diversity and making sure that we don't have gaps in income between blacks and whites? Those are policies that have strengthened America. And I think what we allowed ourselves to do is we got timid. And then when we got power, We didn't pass things that improved people's lives. This whole idea, I think the Democratic Party gets theoretical, talk about food insecurity. People are hungry, get them food. People don't have a house.
Give them your food. Give them your house then. You're acting like we should just give free shit to everyone. That's not how it works, dude. Amazing.
Make sure they have a living wage. That's the point that I'm saying is, Fox News will glorify, oh, he's for DEI. Not your definition of DEI. My definition is...
Our definition is that you should hire based off who is most qualified for the job and not off your skin color. Let's not pretend the Democrats weren't the party of the KKK. They're saying it right in front of you now that we should hire based off skin color, not by who's most qualified for the job. They haven't changed their ways since the KKK, which they ran.
Rule of law that's fair, that everybody gets an opportunity. And that's the point I think we have to make. Now, look, I'll be first to tell you, Jake, I'm out here doing what I can do. I don't know if I'm the best spokesperson to do it after just losing an election. But what I know is the public, and you saw it across the country this weekend, they're rising up and asking their leadership to do something.
So we heard your former running mate, Kamala Harris, say she's not here to say, I told you so. Although obviously that's what she was saying about all the Trump chaos.
Yes, money.
We're seeing, I have to say though, what does I told you so really mean here? I mean, people heard her message. They did not vote for her. She lost every battleground state. You yourself have criticized the Harris-Walz campaign for being too cautious. She may have told the American people, she may have warned the American people, but she didn't do it compellingly enough to win.
That is the absolute point. And look, when I criticize, I'm criticizing myself. I own this. I'm part of the ticket. And somebody has to come up with a strategy. I think this is exactly right. This is the thing. Look, Democrats, it was a good night in Wisconsin. I was over there. We saw that happen. Donald Trump's doing this. Just to be clear, nobody on the Democratic side is celebrating this. And those folks in the street are not celebrating that Donald Trump's making all these errors. I think what the vice president's saying is that was pretty self-evident that he was going to do that. I do think the challenge for Democrats, and this is, I think, a structural problem that's going to take a lot more thinking. Why, with all of that out there, did they not think we were any better than that? And they didn't. And I'm very concerned with the folks who stayed home. And these are folks that I'll say once again, Donald Trump has identified their angst. They can't buy a house. They can't afford to get a good education. They're concerned that their economic future is so precarious it could slip out from under them. Less than half of Americans have $1,000 in savings. And I think,
what does he saying have to do with Trump? It's the Democrats that have rose this inflation to record highs. Gas is already going down. Egg price is going down since Trump's been in, and it's about to get cheaper. So what is this guy? He's literally saying what his own party and him himself did and signed it onto. It's amazing.
Why was it not so compelling? It should have been a slam dunk for us to say, we're the party that cares about that. We're the party that's going to protect Social Security and Medicare. Okay. We're the party that thinks the ACA is a good start, but we need to do more on healthcare. And we didn't do that. So I'm concerned. Democrats do well in special elections and off-year elections, but the electorate that comes in presidential election years is different. When I was young, it was easy to know what a Democrat was. They stood with the working class and labor. Republicans were country club and for the rich. Today, you ask people, they don't. We have a 29% approval rating.
Yeah.
It doesn't help us any that Donald Trump ends up with a 25% approval rating. We have to get back to the core issues, that this is about making America prosperous and stable and innovative for everybody.
Well, what do you make of the criticism that one of the reasons why your party was so resoundingly rejected last November is because Democrats were gaslighting the country, saying that inflation was not a big deal, heralding Bidenomics. Not only Biden, but Kamala Harris was heralding Bidenomics, pretending that there wasn't a problem at the border. And then fundamentally, this idea that President Biden was up for another 4 years of the job while Americans...
Yes, Squidman. The left always accuses the right of being violent and aggressive. Last time I checked, a lefty could have killed that woman. Savannah, the left is 100% communist. Yes, they are. And in the videos I'm going to show you after this interview, it's going to show exactly that with the protests that happened over the weekend. All funded by George Soros. President Trump has kept his promises so far. Yes, he definitely has. I do wish they would release the Epstein files. I think Pam Bondi is a terrible cabinet pick. I was excited for her at first, but I think she has been such a failure. Epstein files, when it comes to arresting more people, it seems like anytime they arrest a couple people, there's like this big, she has to be on Fox News. It's quite annoying, actually.
In poll after poll for year after year, we're saying he's too old to do the job.
But besides that, yes.
Your party
All
stood
promises.
against all of those things.
Look, Joe Biden coming in and during COVID and being a governor through COVID did a hell of a job. But I think one of the things that we didn't do is we assumed that we said, and it was true, that we were going to have a soft landing and our economy was better than the rest of the world. Better for who? Better for the working class who was saying groceries were too expensive, as they are now and going up. They got to see us talk about things. Again, I go back to this. Don't talk about food insecurity or housing type of issues. Talk about people being hungry and wondering where they're going to live, or about their children's future.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's why you shouldn't let 20 plus million of people, illegals come in, 20 million plus illegals come in and give them free preferential treatment when it comes to EBT, food, insurance, welfare. Also, in California, the state I'm in, they were getting top of the list when it came to housing over Americans and homeless veterans. They were putting these illegals in these nice-ass homes, nice-ass hotels, apartments off our taxpayer dime. So cut me with that bullshit that, oh, because Trump's in office, people are worried about this. It's your guys' fault. He's fixing the shit you guys created. They created a terrible economy just in case Trump came in. I'm telling you, this was all on purpose from the Democrat Party.
Real security. And so I think your question is spot on. I think we got intellectualized on this. I think the fact of the matter is Joe Biden did soft land the economy. He did usher us through COVID. None of us are saying we should be soft on the border, allow that and Phila, and their narrative starts to stick, and we look weak. We look weak, like we don't care. We look like we look, Jake. I'm not going to say, we need to do is we need to just arrest people and ship them to El Salvador. No, we need to invest the money on border. We need to make sure that we have the judges necessary to adjudicate things faster. We need to make sure if you're going to be in this country, you're legal, and when you are, you're going to be uplifted, celebrated, and part of this great American tapestry.
Oh, like these people that were attacking cops, raping, kidnapping people, and let ride out, or these terrorists that the Biden administration with the Democrat Party led into the country freely? Or how about the fact that they had world's most wanted criminals in this country and they did nothing to stop them? Disgusting.
We didn't do that, and then it fills them. They'll find the example that is horrific where you have someone who's not here legally and they commit a crime. That is horrific, but we don't do a good job of telling that.
Don't you think your party needs to acknowledge that President Biden was not up for the job of running for re-election and that this was a major mistake by the
He made that decision.
I know, but you all went along with it.
I know, I can't keep pausing. I want to make a good point. They say that the party of democracy, yet they put out a coup on their own presidential nominee that the people of their side voted for. And they installed Kamala Harris and then put in this jackass right here who's literally the dumbest governor in the whole United States. Like, he shouldn't even be managing a McDonald's, and no offense to McDonald's employees, you're even too smart to hire a guy like this. This guy's lowest at the totem pole and should be given zero respect for how he handled BLM riots and COVID. That's all I'm going to say there.
The idea that he was up for it and he wasn't, and everybody saw it and the country rejected it.
Yeah, well, look, history will tell us to go back on that. That very well could be the case, Jake. What I'm concerned about is learning from those lessons. I would hope we would never do it again, make a mistake, make sure we go through and get someone. But I don't know where it helps us going forward. I certainly am deeply concerned that Donald Trump is going to lead us down a horrific look. Thank God it's tariffs. He said Donald Trump listens to no one. Remember, Donald Trump has statements about, I don't think nuclear war would be that bad. I guess we're lucky that he went after tariffs instead of that route. Yeah. We have an issue in this country that is going to impact us. And if there is not a loyal opposition, if there's not some soul searching on our side, if there's not reaching out to those folks who are in the streets, they're leading right now.
So quick question.
I would tell everybody, you better get with them. Yeah.
Quick question, because we got to go. But you said you're not going to run for the Senate seat there. Are you going to run for a third term for governor? Are you possibly going to run for president in 2028?
President.
Well, I'm certainly thinking about running again in Minnesota if that's what they want. I am not thinking about running in 2028. And my advice to folks is if in this moment you're planning for 2028, you're going to get rolled by the people in the streets. You just need to be out there making sure you're helping and doing things like Cory Booker's doing.
Yep, like supporting and organizing these riots that literally have no message. These people that I'm going to show you in these videos have no clue what they're even protesting. They've literally been indoctrinated like nothing we've ever seen before. And this is your basic Tim Walz voter. You'll see.
Doing things like Bernie Sanders, AOC, things that we see people out talking to folks. So for me, I'm going to get through this legislative session. If the folks in Minnesota want me, I'm kind of inclined to do that. And I just want to play my part to make sure we cannot afford to allow Donald Trump or his successor to go
back to
forward,
Trump.
because you're seeing the pain.
Good to have you back here, Governor Walz. Oh, and happy birthday, 60.
We don't care to see that garbage. I'm going to switch it now to X, guys. Just give me a sec. I'm going to show you the hands-off rally or protest that happened around the country that were funded by George Soros yesterday. And I'm going to show you a video of an interview that a conservative did to this guy that was protesting and just show you how uneducated these people are. But one sec. There it is. All right. It's just amazing that people are buying this bullshit. These are all staged.
What makes Trump what makes Trump a fascist?
Come
What
on.
makes Trump a fascist?
He does things without
Yeah, talk loud. I don't have my mic on.
I'm not really good into.
Oh, Sharon, we know why. Or Squidman, we know why. It's because of his race. It always is. If it was flipped, there would be a lot of outrage. But we already knew that.
Sorry?
He just doesn't. He just does everything he wants, and not following laws or he's a convicted felon. That's all I know.
But your sign says he's a fascist, and I'm just curious what makes him a fascist.
One of the things is that he's trying to control the media, right?
Say that again?
He's trying to control the narrative. Like
These people, I'm sorry, do not look well. They look like they need to get checked by a doctor because they don't have a clue what fascism even means. They've never been to a fascist country. They're probably being paid. They're either illegals or they're just indoctrinated, spoiled kids who are just getting a check. And it's been actually reviewed that a lot of these paid organizers are getting around $1,000 per protest. That's some BS right there.
How is he trying to control the media? Doesn't every president try to control the narrative?
they try to control their own narrative, but one of the things that Trump's has done, for example, is the renaming the Gulf of Mexico, and then not allowing the Associated Press to come into the White House. Basically, trying to get.
What are your feelings about him renaming the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America when a majority of the Gulf is in fact on the coast of America as opposed to Mexico?
I mean, it's kind of pointless. People.
Is it pointless?
Yeah.
So that's why they're protesting, because he's changing it, the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. That's why he's there.
Yeah, people call it the Gulf of Mexico. What's the
Don't you
point
think
of
it could have a
changing the name?
positive tourism impact potentially?
Tourism has been down heavily.
So I don't want to get into a tourism debate. My question is, the sign says the fascist Trump regime must go.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious what makes him a fascist. You pointed out that maybe something about his relationship with the media, he wants to control it, but how? Again, you're specific. You're calling him a fascist.
Yeah, well,
what makes him a fascist?
One of the core tenets of fascism is creating an enemy, right, and blaming those problems on
What's
the enemy.
that?
Oh, yeah,
So-
this paper gave me, yeah.
Who gave you that?
People that
Let's see. I want to see that real quick. Let's rewind that. So it says the Bob and event injection. Oh my God, I can't even see. Talking points probably.
people that gave me the sign. It's a free sign.
Oh, someone gave you the sign, and then they gave you the handout.
No.
So you're reading it now to try to answer the question.
Yeah, but I mean,
Can I see that? Can you hold that
I'm
up?
just not.
No, I'm just curious.
Wow.
You can have it.
I can have it.
Yeah, you can have it.
All right. Defeating Trump MAGA fascism. Look to some future elections are working now to mobilize millions around this powerful unifying demand. The Trump fascism regime must go. Wow. So interesting.
All righty. So where did you get the sign?
All the way in the gatekeeper's house.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just pretty cool.
And that's another one? They gave you two pieces of paper?
So amazing.
They have that one too?
Yes, you can have both.
Oh, okay. So what brings you guys out here today?
Just because I saw people were hanging out with people from.
Yeah, same thing as everyone else. Executive overreach.
Isn't this amazing? So amazing. All right, so now there was a very, very viral moment on Pierce Morgan Uncensored the other day that I want you guys to react to, where actually a liberal calls out what Trump's doing in support, but also calls out the Democrat Party. Crazy.
What I find so frustrating about the conversation around tariffs is that we all agree on the problem. We all agree that the deindustrialization of America led to the downward mobility of the American working class, deaths of despair, people working multiple jobs and not being able to afford the American dream. We all agree that it is deeply unfair for the American middle class to be bearing the burden of unfair tariffs from other countries. We all agree that it is great for the president to have leverage in order to demand reasonable things, like that countries stop allowing fentanyl to murder 100,000 Americans every year, and that Mexico do its part to police its own border. And yet when somebody has the courage to show up and say to Wall Street, screw you, I am waging class warfare on behalf of the American working class, and you elites in Wall Street, you do what you need to do because I'm not going to stop fighting for the American working class. Suddenly, everybody is sitting around going, oh no, the stock market. Yeah, the stock market looks like that because the rich are punishing Trump for siding with the neglected and humiliated American working class over them. We have already seen these tariffs work, Pierce. The number of people crossing the southern border is at 0. Fentanyl is at record lows for the last 10 years. We have already seen $1.2 trillion in manufacturing invested in this country since January 21st. So they have already worked. Now, how long is Wall Street going to keep trying to punish this president for standing the American working class? I don't know, but I can tell you that the view from the street is people cannot believe that there is a president who is working for them, who is putting them first and telling Wall Street to go screw itself. Wall Street, which picked the Democrats for the last 3 election cycles in a row. That's what the real story is here. American Compass did a survey of just GOP voters. We know now that the majority of Americans who make under $100,000 a year now vote for the Republican Party. So that was almost a means-tested poll. And they found that 77% of GOP voters, the working class, not the elites, said that when they were asked, they said they would be willing to pay higher prices if it meant bringing back manufacturing, because of course in their mind they are going to be the beneficiaries of those manufacturing jobs. About Canada, a lot of people are asking, why Canada? We love Canada. Canada are our friends. Why wage this, tariff war on Canada? And of course the answer is simple. Canada and Mexico are the back door to the American economy because we have this trade deal with them, the USMCA. So if there are no tariffs on China, if Canada and Mexico do not match our tariffs on China, China simply builds car manufacturing plants in Canada and in Mexico, which they have already done, and they use that in order to get tariff-free cars into the American market, which is exactly what President Trump is trying to get away from. So what he wants from them is for them to close that back door. And I just want to emphasize again, back in the 70s, when the majority of the GDP in America was in the middle class, right? That's kind of like the golden era that we look back to of when the economy was really healthy and working class people felt that they could afford a middle class life. 25% of our economy was in manufacturing. Today, the top 10% control over 60% of the GDP. And that is a direct result of the fact that only 10% of our economy is manufacturing. And the largest share, 20%, is in finance and real estate, which is, of course, how other countries artificially inflated the dollar, which makes the product of the American worker unaffordable. And so what the tariffs are doing are simply saying we are refusing the race to the bottom in wages. It is unfair to the American worker, which I think we have all basically agreed on at this point.
Wow. I absolutely
what I find
love
so
her.
Frustrating about,
and I mean, she said it correctly. Yeah, she definitely said it correctly. We can't survive these days. Just
so what makes Trump
So also, this was an actual suit at the protest. Wow. Insane, guys. And I want to end on, let's see if I still have it. I think I'm going to save it. Yes. First dates. You're on a first date and trying to find out if they're Trump supporter. Let's end on a funny note, guys. I love this.
So, do you like barbecue?
Yeah, I love barbecue. Do you?
Sure do. So, have you ever driven an electric car?
Nope. They're terrible. Unless, what college did you go to?
Liberty University. What about you?
South Alabama.
Conservative.
So, Team Blake or Justin?
Team Justin. Did you get vaccinated in 2020?
No. Did you? What's your opinion on the border?
I love immigration. I think we need immigrants in our country, you know, legal immigrants.
Are you a Trump supporter?
Yes. Are you?
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Well, I hope you guys have a great night. Please like, comment, subscribe. Love you guys. Have a great night. Peace.